Look, I get it. The headlines are screaming bear market, everything feels cold, and if you're feeling that crypto winter chill, you're definitely not alone. But what if I told you they're missing the bigger picture, like completely missing it? There are 5 huge signals flashing green right now that suggest the thaw is already here.
And if you ignore these, you are running a huge risk of missing the real start of the next bull run. Seriously. And one of these signals, wow, it changes everything. It involves an $11 trillion giant that just quietly opened the floodgates.
Yep, $11 trillion. That's the amount of money Vanguard manages, and they've just given crypto the green light on their platform. So here's the plan. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down the 5 pillars holding this market up, and I'll give you a super clear watch list so you know exactly what to look for next.
So, you ready to see what's really going on under the hood? First up, we've got the Unbreakable chart. Then, we'll meet the institutional Cavalry and figure out how that whole MicroStrategy scare was basically a nothing burger. After that, we dive deep into on-chain data, track a coming liquidity flood, and we'll wrap it all up with a watch list to keep you one step ahead.
Okay, pillar number 1, the chart itself. You know, despite this absolute storm of negative news we've been getting hammered with, the core bullish structure, it hasn't broken. It's holding strong, and that, right there, is where our story of optimism begins. I mean, just stop and think about what this market has soaked up. You had all the FUD around a potential MicroStrategy sell-off, the never-ending drama with Tether, and then unsettling news about rate hikes in Japan. And through all of that, what do we see? Higher highs and higher lows. That's not just resilience, my friends. That is the signature of a market that is coiled up and wants to go way, way higher. And if you need that one killer piece of evidence, here it is. This is the proof that the tide is turning. Check this out. The Coinbase Premium Index just flipped green. You know, for weeks, it felt like all the US investors were doing was selling. Well, they're back. And they're not just buying, they're paying a premium to get in. The sellers are they're gassed, they're exhausted, and that clears the runway for a major reversal.
So the chart is holding the line. That brings us to pillar number 2. The institutional cavalry is finally here. And listen, this is super important. This isn't just a new wave of money coming in. No. It's a completely different kind of buyer, and that changes the entire game.
Think back to the last cycle, right? It was companies like MicroStrategy leading the charge. This time, forget about it. We're talking about the absolute titans of finance, BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard. These guys are now unleashing their clients' capital directly into the market. This isn't just a bigger wave of demand, it's a tsunami.
And look, this isn't just talk. Vanguard's $11 trillion war chest, it's now open for business for crypto ETFs. Think pension funds. And then you have Bank of America. Bank of America officially telling its clients to get some skin in the game, recommending allocations up to 4%. This is it. This is the huge institutional green light we have been waiting years for.
All right, pillar number 3. This one's about the crisis that, well, it never actually happened. For weeks, the market was absolutely bracing for this catastrophic MicroStrategy sell-off to cover its steps. But that fear, it's been completely wiped off the board.
So how'd they pull it off? Oh, it was an absolutely brilliant move. A $1.44 times billion cash raise. That's enough cash to cover their dividend payments for the next 21 months. What does that mean? It means any pressure to sell their massive Bitcoin stack is completely, totally off the table.
And you know, this is way more than just Michael Saylor changing his tune. It's a really smart, strategic evolution. He's masterfully shifted from that hardcore never sell mantra to a much more flexible strategy of protecting shareholder value. And that pragmatic pivot, it has totally silenced the critics and calmed the market's nerves.
You know, you're getting the insider's view right here on Crypto Global News. If you're finding this analysis valuable, do me a quick favor, hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and definitely ring that bell icon so you get these updates as soon as they drop. All right, let's get back into it. We're diving into the on-chain data. Okay, so the big picture is looking solid. Let's zoom in now with our 4th pillar, the on-chain data. This is where we can basically read the market's collective mind. And right now, it's telling us something loud and clear. The weak hands have already packed their bags and left.
So, our secret weapon for this is an indicator called NUPL. Now, don't worry about the acronym. Just think of it like a sentiment X-ray for the entire market. It shows us in real time if investors are sitting on big profits or if they're bleeding out in the red.
And where are we right now? NUPL is sitting squarely in what's called the optimism/anxiety zone. Now, this zone is famous during a bull run. It's the shakeout zone, right? It's that area where the price pulls back just enough to freak people out and test their conviction right before the next massive leg up. Historically, this is an absolutely prime time to accumulate.
And if you needed one last piece of proof that the panic is over, this is the final nail in the coffin for the bears. We just witnessed the single largest day of realized losses in the entire history of Bitcoin. Yeah, you heard that right. It was a brutal, painful washout, but that is the classic textbook signal that a strong, durable bottom is now in.
So the on-chain data is confirming a bottom. That brings us to our final pillar, where we zoom all the way out to the macro landscape. There is a tidal wave of liquidity forming just over the horizon. And folks, it is about to lift all boats. The brilliant macro investor Raoul has this great analogy he calls the alligator jaws. Picture this, the bottom jaw is the global money supply, and it's just steadily rising. The top jaw is Bitcoin's price, and it's fallen way behind, creating this massive open gap. But here's the thing about those jaws, they always snap shut, and when they do, the catch-up trade is just explosive.
So, what's the big catalyst that's going to slam those jaws shut? Well, you don't have to look any further than the Federal Reserve. Right now, prediction markets are pricing in an 84% chance that the next Fed chair is going to be Kevin Hassett, who is a notoriously dovish economist. The money printers are about to get warmed up and go into overdrive, and that is pure rocket fuel for assets like Bitcoin.
Okay, so now you get it. You understand the 5 pillars, the why behind all this optimism. So let's shift gears and talk about the what. Here are the specific assets and the critical price levels you need to have on your radar right now.
First, in the altcoin world, there are 2 ecosystems that look like they're ready to make some big moves. You've got Solana with their Breakpoint conference just around the corner. So you're obviously watching SOL, but also keep an eye on Jupiter, Helium, and Render. Then, over on the base ecosystem, there's a major app launch coming up on December 18th. That could really light a fire under coins like Virtual and Aerodrome.
But let's be real, the main event is always Bitcoin. And there are 2 numbers that are going to define this next chapter. First, $93,000. That is the line in the sand. It's the yearly open. If the bulls can conquer that level and hold it, then the final boss is waiting at $95,000. That's a huge technical level that is really going to test their resolve.
So the stage is set. The storm seems to have passed, the institutions are here, and a massive wave of liquidity is building on the horizon. The fate of 2025 really, truly hinges on one single number, $93,000. The question isn't just if it will hold, it's how high are we going to fly when it finally does.
Stay ahead in the crypto market. Subscribe now for the latest global news and updates.